the reason why I find you to be one of the most extraordinary women that I've ever met in my life is because the sort of things that have happened to you they're stories of horror.
Yes.
And you are so joyful and so energetic, and you have so much drive and so much passion. And there are so many human beings in the world who haven't experienced even a minimum of what you've experienced in your life, and they complain. And you don't ever complain. You don't ever complain. You get up, you get the job done, you stand up for people, you use your voice, you put yourself out there, and I am in absolute awe of who you are. And today I need to take a breath because this is literally, this woman, Aminata Conteh-Biger, is one of the most extraordinary women that I have ever met in my whole entire life. And it is such an honor to have you in the studio today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. You're making me teary already.
Oh, great start. Great start. Aminata she is an activist, she is an author, she is a mother, she is a friend, and she is the founder of the Aminata Maternal Foundation. And we're going to hear from her and hear about all of her magnificent achievements. And there's a new one to add to the list that happened last night, which is mind-blowing. She is going to be sharing with you what is required to actually stand in your full power to do the things that count in the world.
Thank you so much again for having me. I'm really excited.
So here we are. We've got a bit of a history, her and I.
Yes.
We've known one another for 7 years now. And the first time we connected was in a boardroom, a boardroom at an accounting firm. And since then, Aminata has contributed to saving over 10,000 women's and babies' lives. And last night, super congratulations, she was awarded the Women's Agenda Setter of 2021. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Amazing. And what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that award stand for? What is it recognizing you for?
Well, I believe it's recognizing me for a woman that's starting something new, and that is leading other women in that journey. And for my place, I believe it's in maternal health and in the voice of every woman, and especially women of color, which are the most disadvantaged, and also around violence and topics that I have history about. Yeah.
So tell us more about that. Let's share with the listeners who you are and what it is that you do in the world. What gets you out of bed every single day?
Okay, well, so of course, that's Aminata. I am a mother of two. I have a really beautiful, kind husband, and I have founded the Aminata Maternal Foundation when my daughter was born because of the experience of almost losing her in 2012. And I have a son who I hardly mention sometimes, Métis. I'm also a special representative for United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee. So because of my experience, I'm coming here in Australia 21 years ago. I came here as a refugee from Sierra Leone. And so because of that experience, I try to raise the profile, especially with the history of Australia around refugees, really give a picture of people who are refugees and migrants, the life they had before they come to a country like Australia, because that life is not talked about. It's only the name that is tagged on them as refugees. And for me, refugees are human seeking refuge. Basically that, but they are human being first. And I think the human is always taken out because of policy and because of the greed. So I speak on behalf of that a lot, and because of my role with UNHCR. And now maternal health, I speak a lot around violence against women, abuse, and women that have been just silenced. And because of my story, when I was kidnapped, the experience that I had to go through being kidnapped and during the civil war in Sierra Leone. So I feel like I'm sharing my story, kind of mirror other women who are not able to. And yeah, what else? How do I wake up every morning?
What gets you out of bed?
What gets me out of bed? Life is beautiful. I always say life is a beautiful, crazy dance. You know, it's not perfect. So I just get up in the morning and I start my day cup full. I intentionally do that. It's a practice every single day. So I'm not saying it's easy, but if you set that intention, it will happen. And if life hits you, you will not fall down fully. You be in the middle and then get up again. So for me, that's very important how I start my day. So I wake up at 5:30. I go for my run in the morning and listen to podcasts and fill myself up with people that really I'm relatable to. I listen to people's story and I find that common ground that we are not that different at all. It doesn't matter what part of the world you are. So I love podcasts. And I head out on the day.
And this is it, this is why I'm just taking a breath, because I'm feeling hugely emotional myself, just being here with you. And I always am, there's a really deep, beautiful connection between us, and
absolutely
a lot of laughter, but lots of tears as well. It's soul to soul kind of stuff.
Yes.
And the reason why I find you to be one of the most extraordinary women that I've ever met in my life is because the sort of things that have happened to you they're stories of horror.
Yes.
And you are so joyful and so energetic, and you have so much drive and so much passion. And there are so many human beings in the world who haven't experienced even a minimum of what you've experienced in your life, and they complain. And you don't ever complain. You don't ever complain. You get up, you get the job done, you stand up for people, you use your voice, you put yourself out there. And I am in absolute awe of who you are and what you stand for. Thank you for being such an incredible human being.
Thank you. I believe it's not one way at all. We are not. You can't just get from me and I don't get from you. So it's two ways. You bring such a light. I mean, we laugh, we cry. We need that as human.
This woman is a shining star for all human beings in the world, for everyone that crosses her path. And with all of the trauma that she's experienced in her life, I am absolutely blown away by the amount of joy that she accesses on a daily basis. So, sister, tell us, what's the magic pill? What it is, what are you taking on a daily basis that has you accessing this joy without fail every single day?
Oh, well, I think it's life. I always believe that as long as you're breathing, you should be grateful. If you're alive, you should be grateful. There are people who life had just taken like that in a few moments, and that's part of my story. The way the moment I was kidnapped, taken in the hands of my father, that my dad that I grew up with, that had protected me and loved me, and not ever in his wildest dream and mind also that would ever happen. And in that glimpse, I was taken in his hands.
How old were you, Aminata?
I was 18 years old. And what I had to go through, and for a father also who has protected his children, also knew that they've kidnapped a daughter, but not knowing that if the daughter is dead or not, but knowing also what has been done to his daughter. So that really breaks my father. But I think for me, where I really I really search for joy every single day is the fact that when I was kidnapped,
and this was during the Civil War,
in Sierra Leone in 1999.
In 1999, you were getting kidnapped, and in 1999, I was in South Africa in my final year of school. Yeah. Two very, very different realities.
Yeah, it is, and I think that's what happens even with my book. When people read my book, Australians, they always put themselves in that position that, oh, somebody will say, I was having a baby that time. I was traveling overseas, but the fact that people can actually do that, it brings empathy in the picture, which is mostly what refugee stories are not told in that form. So I wanted my story to have that human form of how I was brought up by an incredible father, the life that I had, and the fact that I never was interested in coming in the Western world. I had everything that with me, and then what happened, and then now living in Australia and living this experience. But I think for me, what makes me wake up every morning, I don't think about it every day. I think now it's part of my body or my being, is that I fought. Sometimes when I think about how I fought to survive every single minute, second, during those intense time during the war, the technique that I came up with to just live for that moment, some of the bullet that hit somebody else and died, and I was just standing there. For the fact that I fought that hard, I always, when people ask me that question, I'm like, what was the point for? It was for me to come back and be miserable. I would have just not done that. I would have just died, because there was a lot of opportunity for that to happen. I will feel like I cheated life if I do not strive for joy. And I know every single day life is not perfect, so I'm not in this bubble at all. You know, I have 2 kids that drive me crazy 1 second and I love them after. I have a husband that I drive crazy and he drives me. You know, life is just a beautiful mess, you know. So I'm not telling the story as if, oh, I'm living in this bubble, everything is all fine. No, there's a hole in it everywhere. But I know that's what is expected of life. We will never promise all glory, you know. But the beauty about life is just taking it and making it your own. And also being responsible for the people around you. So for me, the people around me and the people that are allowed in my life, it's very, very important that I knew from the beginning that I have a choice to choose who I allowed, but also when they are in my life, what I give to them and what they give to me. So it's just, I think for me, the point came is when I recognized that I have a choice. It doesn't matter poverty or not. And this is why a lot of time when people go to a lot of poor countries, they go like, but they're so happy. They make a choice, because even if you don't have food to eat, what are you going to do? Lie in the streets and die? No. You're going to go and play until something shows up and then you're fed. And this is how people live in countries like that. So for me, that's how I live my life. And that's how I think I find joyous, and I don't find happiness, because happiness is good, but it doesn't last. Joy is something that you feel like it's like a root, you know? You have the tree, but you have the root there that keeps the tree going. So that, for me, that's how I look at joy. So yeah.
I mean, do you think that people have to experience a lot of trauma to be able to get to the state of joy that you have the ability to access?
No, I don't believe that at all. If I will go back, my story not to be what happened to me, of course I will not want it to be the way it is. But I think that experiences makes us find inner strength. Anyone. It's not even what I went through. It's about marriage being break up. It's about fighting between colleagues. Any experiences that you have, you know that you have to put your cape on. You regain something. It's just a natural. There's nothing special about me that is not ingrained in anyone. So, but we do not have to let anything like that happen for us to achieve something greater, because we're all born with something greater in us.
I love that. It comes down to the simplicity of choice.
Yes.
You choose it or you don't, and that's it.
Yes.
You know, and similarly to you, the first thing that I do in the morning, I'm like, okay, check, cool, still breathing. Excellent. We're winning today. Amazing.
Yes.
We've got another chance. We've got another chance to do good stuff in the world. Now, we're going to dive into stats for a moment and really look at the numbers of what's going on around the work that she does in Sierra Leone, and why she's so driven to stand for women globally and ensure that they're not silenced. So what's happening in Sierra Leone? How many mothers and babies are losing their lives?
Where the World Health Organization said the current stat is since 2018, which is still one in 17, But in the real case, it is really 1 in 8. It's really that bad. Sierra Leone have the highest infant and maternal mortality in the world. It's the most dangerous place for any woman to give birth. And so, and in Australia, it's 1 to 8,700.
1 in 8,700 women in Australia lose their lives. And in Sierra Leone, 1 in 8 women lose their lives.
Yes.
Whilst giving birth.
Yes. So not just the women and the child. So it's an infant and maternal issue. So you lose the child, or mostly the child and the mother, and sometimes the mother, and then that child will end up being to somebody else, like an auntie or uncle or grand, like just left there, and they will basically end up dying. Like one of the in 2017, SBS Dateline came with me and did a documentary called Daughter of Sierra Leone. We visited a girl around 16 years old who had passed and left a child to her, I think it was a stepmother or so. And this child at a young age was being given sugar water, like put sugar in the water to sustain this child because there was no breast milk. The mom was gone. The mom is dead.
This is what the child was being fed.
Yes. So we had to provide of 6 months of milk transport to this family every month. But that child would have died. And even if they do, 1 in 10 children don't get to see their 5th birthday in Sierra Leone. 1 in 10.
1 in 10 children don't make it to the age of 5.
Yes. That's the reality. So it's when I say bad, it is really bad. The health system there is not sustainable. The government trying, because a country that have had 11 years of civil war, and then you had Ebola hit, and then you have floods that we have in that country every year, and then you have now COVID. I don't know how they still get up, but they do. The Sierra Leoneans still do. It's incredible.
And some would say that it's the survival of the fittest. You know, if we take it and we have a look at things from a totally different perspective, some would say that, well, it's a third world country, so it doesn't really matter. We don't need to sustain things over here. We don't need to look after people. We don't need to worry about them because, what sort of contribution are they making to the world anyway? Because, it's only what's going down in Western civilizations where everything is in order, and this is not the case. And you and I know this, that if one human being is suffering, another human being is suffering.
Yes.
And so I am quite enraged by, we live in a bubble here, and I'm very, very grateful to be in Australia. I'm not a permanent resident. I'm not a citizen. I'm very, very grateful to be in this country. We're on a mountain here. Yeah. We're living on a mountain. And I feel that if there is anybody in this country that is not contributing in some sort of form to community or making the lives of another human being better, then what is the point of us being here? I often hear Australians complaining about life, and I don't understand it. Yeah. Especially us living in Sydney. We've got such a beautiful life. There really is not much to complain about. Yes. And so, looking at the work that you do, and you making sure that you don't complain on a daily basis, and you get up and you do it, and you knowing that these statistics are here. I've been witnessing you over the past few months really focusing on this element of activism and standing up and really looking at women's rights as a whole, and focusing on ensuring that they all have a voice. Speak to me about what you've been doing over the past few weeks. I know that you were part of a march.
Yes.
And what was your role in that march? What were you standing for?
Well, the march, I was invited by a very good friend, Wendy McCarthy. It was at the Parliament House, March for Justice. So I was one of the speakers. And when I was asked, of course, I said yes right away, because any issue that has to do with women issue, but any human being, really, I will speak on behalf, as long as I know that I'm going to contribute and the intention is not to hurt someone. So I said yes. And but when I said yes, the one thing that came in mind to me, hearing stories about in Australia, coming from Sierra Leone and having the experience that I had only during the war, I came to Australia in a special visa to be protected, to have a protection that nothing is like that would happen. So I was really shocked when I hear stories like the Parliament House and abuse. I didn't think this kind of things happen here. And that was the reason why I was sent to Australia. And every country have those issues. But sometimes it's made believe that it happens in only places like Afghanistan or Africa. You know what I mean? In the West that are so civilized, these things almost like doesn't happen. And this is why they're coming out now, because there's been a lot of silence. So when I was asked to speak, I looked at all the platform people who have been speaking, and I believe that the reason why I was asked was because I was a color person, because I know there was a lot of conversation that it was only white people, white women complaining or saying. And I have a lot of friends from the Asian community, the Latin community that I know go through this kind of abuse, like go through this, like the stories are so scary. I had a friend who never went out after the abuse that she went through. She would not go out, only meeting me because I go for a run in the morning. She started going for a walk too with me. And I wonder, these women will never tell their story. They will never tell their story because they're not represented at all. There is no one that looks like. Representation is very important. There's no one that looks like them. And then you get a prime minister, or you get all these politicians, and you get all these people that come out and do not even believe Australian, a white person, a blonde white person, of their story of what they've gone through. And then, so when I reflect on that, and I think to myself, no wonder you will never hardly see a colored person platform Aboriginal going to those matches. They'll go to Black Lives Matter match because they are fighting for their lives first, not that kind of situation when it comes to abuse or feminist or sexism. It's not a priority, because we're fighting race first. But even at the match in Canberra, I didn't see any black person because we don't feel that is what, there's no representative of us there. And I think for me, when I know that as I do what I do in Australia, being recognized for what I do, I feel responsible all the time to speak for all women, but especially women of color, because there is no representation in Australia at all. And when we do, we don't have the same opportunity. We do not. And I think for me, that's where I'm trying to focus more. I don't want to be on a platform just for platform's sake. I don't want to win an award just for an award's sake if you're not going to give me the same opportunity that you give that person, so I can speak on behalf of the people that look like me, and they will have the same opportunity of sharing, so they can come, even if they're not sharing in a platform, but they are able to break that silence and able to know that there's somebody that's hearing them, listening to them, or also believe in them. So for me, that is a platform that I feel like, with my work with maternal health, which is a human, not just a mother, a human issue, because we are birthing human beings. I do not understand why a mother and a child would die. So that, and adding to that, it's really taking the voice of humanity, but women of color or people of color.
It's a big job you've set out for yourself.
Yeah, it's a big job. One when you have a responsibility. And when you have a platform, you do have a responsibility, or else, just leave the table and for somebody else. So, and if I ever feel like I'm not using that, I will leave that table for somebody else to do that. So, but we have to, because, or else, as I said, in 10 years, 15 years, my daughter, Serafina, who's 9, will be going and speaking somewhere else for the same issue. We're not moving forward, and I don't want it in my time that I'm going to be living, even if I have to leave today and or see tomorrow, I know that I have said something that will impact one person, and that person will go and impact 20 people or more, So for me, planting that seeds every day now, it's what is more important, not tomorrow, now. Because when you plant that seed and you nurture it, somebody else take on that baton. And like the women that have fought before us, that's what they've passed through to us.
And we continue down that line. And exactly, the seed was planted 7 years ago when we met one another, and it started on butcher's paper.
Yes.
You know, we were in my kitchen. It was on butcher's paper. I had just been made redundant. I didn't know what was next, and it was a light bulb moment for me. And I went, what am I going to do with my time? And exactly where I am today, when I invest my time and I spend my energy with someone, it's because they're worth it and they're going to do big things in the world. If they don't have that sense of responsibility and that desire to contribute and create some sort of impact, well, we're not going to be friends. And so 7 years down the track, you have done extraordinary things. This is not even yet 1 decade. And if we continue to do this work together and we continue to stand for one another. And I love what you said. You know, there are a lot of people that are on the mic. Yeah. There are a lot of people that are on their platforms. Yes. They're getting their voices out there. And quite often it would be best if they stepped to the side. Yes. And so I'm so attracted to you as a human being because of your integrity and taking on that responsibility, knowing that you don't just win awards to say, hey, look at me, check out my credibility, I've got an award. You're building credibility so that you have a louder voice to speak on behalf of others. Ami, how do you think that, other than the work that you're currently doing, how do you think that we can create more safe places for all human beings to feel that safety, to share their story, to sense that significance? Because I was with you at the launch of the Loving podcast, and I'm super, super excited to be interviewing Gemma very, very soon as well. Got to get dates in. Incredible. Oh my gosh, mind-blowing. Change makers, right? Yes. And I spoke with another refugee, and he has been here he's now been out of Villawood for 4 years. And the things that he was telling me was shocking. We don't know about so many things that are going down right here in Australia, where everything on the surface looks like it's all good, like we're all living the good life. Yeah. And
we do not want to know. So we don't know. We do not want to know. Because then it gets you on your uncomfortable place, that comfortable place where you see it and it disturbs you. And that's why we don't want to know. So it's not because we don't know, we don't want to know. Whatever we want to know, we will get access to and we will know. It doesn't matter if you want to help somebody from Cambodia and you are Antarctic, you will do it.
If you have the desire.
If you have the desire, but if you care for another human being, even the slightest in the way you care for yourself, you will want to know. So I think we have to get from that place where we say we don't know, the journalists, the media. It's an excuse. You have responsibility to your surroundings. And think for me, that's what I do. The people that I surround myself around, I bring them to my world in places that I know of. And I want to know about people. I genuinely want to know about people when I meet them. And we do not want to know. We don't, even refugees that live next door to us, or even immigrants, we don't even want to know them. So how would we want to know what is happening in Villawood?
Some people don't even know. They don't even know their neighbors.
That's what I'm saying.
They don't even greet their neighbors.
When you get that, Papa, why would you want to know what is happening in what the government is doing? We do not want to know. And then what happens? We elect the same people and then we complain. Everything that we are having, we're responsible for. No politician that we don't want just go like, I'm going to be in that cabinet. No, we put them there. So we got to take that responsibility. Again, I do not use the word empowerment. I don't use all these fancy words because they're just distraction from the
real
actions.
Issues.
Yes, the real issues, you know. You cannot be empowered if you do not have any sense of responsibility. Hell no, not even with your own life. The reason why you're empowered to get up is because you've been responsible for your health, your well-being, your joy. So you get up, you go to exercise, you eat well. Whatever you put, your car, you will not go buy electric car and then you put petrol in there, no?
Well, unless you're not so smart.
Yeah. But it's the same. People know that their body and what this is a temple. So you feed it, you treat it well, you know? So it's the same of what I look at responsibility. So the word empowerment, it's what empowers you when you wake up in the morning, you go like, I want to know more. You've learned about that refugee, you've gone to exhibition. What would I want to know? It's not too much.
You know, judgment is a big thing. Humility is a big thing. And to practice it on a daily basis, I get upset, like I said before, when people, especially here living in such a beautiful country, are complaining about things and not contributing to the greater good. And, you know, something that you do so well, Ami, is you're always extremely humble. You are always incredibly curious. And I know, because I know you well. I know that
Yes.
I can see you from a distance when you're standing in a room and you're having a conversation with someone, and in your mind you're thinking, are you for freaking real? But you come back, it's like you come into your God state, right into your heart.
Yeah.
You ask questions.
Yeah.
And you're extremely humble. How do you do this? You're a queen at accessing joy, but your next level is the queen of always standing in a position or coming from a position of humility.
Oh, well, I find grace. I find grace. And I think grace is, I describe grace even with my children, is when you're about to say something that you know you can't take back. And I say to my kid, bite your tongue, bite it hard. And grace humbles you. You know, it humbles you, and it shows you empathy. Because while that person or you are disagreeing or not really feeling at that moment, really not feeling, it challenges you to either explode or stay there and listen, and also see where they're coming from. And it might not be most, you might go like, I can't see, you know, I don't have the time to even see, but you still have to be in that place where you see them as human, because at the end of the day, they are human who are imperfect like you. And for me, that's really where I take that direction, because I am imperfect and I do not strive for perfection at all. In fact, I run the other way. So I see them as that, because their experience is not my experience, but being in a place where I have to listen to them will make me understand where they're coming from. And also, with my understanding, will actually make them to want to understand where I'm coming from. And that's the exchange that we are not able and capable of in the life that we live at this moment. Because I will learn a lot from that person, and they will learn a lot from me. And there can be an exchange, in which is a culture in a way of African. We exchange food, we exchange everything. You know, when I like that person's food, but you get their food anyway. I believe that a lot of people would rather be with a dog, but the dogs have it. You know, the animals have it. We have it, but we don't have the patience to tolerate that, because then you're in a place where you feel like you're better than that person. So I never want to be in a place where I feel like I'm morally better than that person. I think the power of now has really taught me that. Right? Like the moment you're judging, you're saying, hey, I'm better than you. And that's when I always have to be conscious. I go like, hold on, Aminata, they don't know what you've done. You know all that. So I always have to be in that place of grace. So it's all that combination and listening to them. And I believe that in that listening with what they're saying, instead of like, this is the politician I believe in, I don't even know why. And go like, they're horrible, they're this. No. Why?
Just the art of giving and receiving.
Yeah.
Of stirring that up.
It's really that. So for me, it's really something that it's a practice. It's a practice. And as you practice anything, any habit, you become it. It's really, so it becomes now in a place like, okay, I can hear you, you know, and then it makes you not to even be a Liberal or Democrat, only one thing, and then voila, you're able to see both sides. And I think if both sides are able to, we are able to live harmoniously
and learn from one another.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show, and thank you for all of your nuggets of gold. And for those of you who want to learn more about the Aminata Maternal Foundation, you can go onto her website, onto Instagram. If you want to read her book, you can find that on the DigiWaves. Go into.
You'll have to give the name of the book, right?
It's called Rising Heart. So she is everywhere. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with us. If you're watching us on the replay, #replay, sending so much love to all of you beautiful humans.